Hi, everybody. Welcome back to OVACAST with Michelle.
And Nick.
I had it reversed that time
Yeah,
for some
you
reason.
did. Why didn't you say your own name?
So, the main topic for today's episode is what do you think is the most challenging part about parenting, both as a divorced biological parent and a step parent with no prior experience with children? But before we do that, almost every time we record one of these episodes, I'm in the middle of doing something, and then I'm like, darn, I forgot to say this part during the podcast, and I try to write it down so I don't forget. But sometimes I get caught in the middle of it, and I forget to say stuff. So part of the nostalgia one that I forgot, not nostalgia, the child versus adult one, is as a kid you start to things that you enjoyed as a kid, you start when you grow up, you realize there was a dark part to that, even comforting stuff like Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you watch Wizard of Oz, and it's one of those. It's a comfort movie for a lot of people. But when you're an adult, you realize all the stuff that a lot of the cast went through. Judy Garland went through. There was the guy that was playing the Tin Man before that actor, and he had all that aluminum paint, and he had all those
Yeah.
respiratory issues. And then the lady who played the witch, she had that green
Well,
paint with copper, and she went through all that.
I feel like there's a lot of shit. Not just like, oh, this movie and there's all this, but it's like, think about anything you do when you're a kid. Disneyland. You know what I mean? I mean, you and I more than anybody know, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
Disneyland would have been one, or like, there's all kinds of stuff. Circuses. I can remember going to the circus and being like, this is so fun. You know what I mean? And now
You're like,
those animals were horribly abused. And I would
yeah.
never go to a circus now as an
No, I
adult.
would not go to. There was one I had that would take you. It was like a salt and pepper shaker style one, but there was a metal bar right in front of me. So every time I went upside down, I slammed into the bar and into my stomach.
At a
Um,
circus?
at a circus, yeah.
Oh.
It had
I'm
it
talking
had
about the animals, and I'm like,
it had no seatbelt to it. It's one of those things that you sit in it and it turns you upside down like on an
yeah,
arm at
I
the end of
know.
an
It's
arm.
scary. How quickly they put that stuff up and down, too.
Yeah,
It's like being at a fair.
and then the car. It's not easy being a circus worker. It's a very tough life.
No.
Very tough
Yeah,
life.
it is hard. I
So
would assume.
so things that you think of as a kid as optimistic, when you get older, you see the dark side of it. Like Bob Ross. When I was a kid, I grew up with Bob Ross, and a lot of people think he's the forefather of ASMR. He's like one of the first ones that put ASMR on the map as far as with his relaxing voice and positive messages, and all the positive attitude he had, and the paint brushes and everything. But there's a theory going around that the mineral spirits were toxic to him,
Toxic to
toxic to
him.
him. Sorry,
That's
toxic
okay.
to him, and that slowly over time, with the long-term exposure, that's what caused him his illness, where he died from the lymphoma.
Yeah.
And there's some people theorize, okay, it was his time in his military and he had a chemical exposure there too. There's all these
Right.
different theories about it,
There's
but
always
it's kind of
15.
dark to think that each time you see him, it's in
It's
some ways
killing
it's
him.
positive. A lot of ways it's positive, and it still has the positive messages and everything. And he helped thousands of people learn how to paint and stuff, but at the same time, you watch him now, and it's tough to see it the same way.
Yeah.
So even the comfort things, even the most idyllic things, have a dark twist to them when you get older, and then you kind of look at things cynically. And another one is Nickelodeon, with all that Nickelodeon
Oh,
documentary and all
yeah.
that stuff going up. I remember I used to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark and Legends of the Hidden Temple.
So short. I'm aging myself.
And so that was one of the things I forgot to talk about with the nostalgia, or the what's easier as a child versus an adult,
Right.
is
Well, it's
that
basically nostalgia.
yeah, it's kind of a mix of the two. What's easier
Yeah.
as a child versus an adult, and I think we might talk about this in a separate one, but when we talk about YouTube in general, but there's a lot of nostalgia I have for the older YouTube, going from like 2010 to 2018. That seemed when, for me, that seemed when YouTube was at its best and everybody
Right.
was making there was Jacksepticeye and Markiplier, and they seemed to be at their happiest, and their careers were rising and everything. And it was, oh my god, my life has changed forever. And now it's not.
It's not as. I mean, I still think there are people
YouTube in
that make
general, yeah.
money on YouTube, obviously, and there's
Right.
people that make their livings doing that, but it's not the. It's not the same.
It's not the
Like
same.
the things that I don't know. Well, we can get into that. That's a good topic if you want to note
Write that down.
That's
Yeah,
a good topic
we're
for
gonna
video.
talk about
but
YouTube from the beginning when we saw our first videos and stuff.
yeah,
But I think, sorry.
go ahead.
The other part, the last part, is how nostalgia is basically like the best moments of your life from the past, and that's why we like nostalgia. Is it's basically all the best moments of the past distilled, and you forget some of the negative things, and you forget some of the hard stuff. And there was basically a movie, an Adam Sandler movie called Click, where he was able to skip certain moments in life.
Right.
And what he found out was that even in the most undesirable moments in life, when you're having a fight with somebody, an argument with somebody, when you're bored, or when this is a boring moment, basically there's so many filler moments in life, and you want to skip those and have more of the highlights of life more often. But some of the most important things happen during those filler moments or during those difficult moments, and you have to make those moments as best you can, even if you're like at the DMV waiting in line, and you might say something encouraging to somebody that could make their day better, or something.
Right.
You never know what significance any moment can have. And even if it does seem like a filler moment, and this is not a highlight to remember nostalgically in the future, you still have to try to make it the best you can, because there's only so many moments in life. But that's the only parts from the previous one.
What's your previously on?
Yeah, previously on OVACAST.
Did you make a note?
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna put it. So the next part in our main topic is, unless you wanted to talk about anything,
Don't forget
you
to
forgot.
make the note of the next video.
Okay.
YouTube, because I know that we're gonna get sidetracked and start going.
I get
and then,
sidetracked and I forget. She knows me so well, guys.
But no, what we're going to talk about today is just basically parenting. And I know this topic is very individualized. A lot of people parent very different ways. And this is just our experience with parenting our child.
Yeah.
And this is just how we raised Connor. This is not how everybody should raise their kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is just our thoughts on parenting and how we've gone from the beginning to now, which he's 14, so we've done pretty well. We've kept him alive this long. So, but for a little bit of background, Nick came into our lives when Connor was
5, roughly.
Was he 4, and then he turned 5?
He was around that time. I just remember.
No, he was 5. He was going to be 6.
Yeah.
He was 5, and he was going to turn 6. So when Connor, when Nick came into our lives, Connor was 5. And, that actually was he was in, like, a pre-kindergarten, transitional kindergarten, or whatever they called it at the time. And that was actually one of the easier years. It was the easy year.
I remember that
of his
one time,
life.
Yeah.
In school. And if you guys didn't know, just for Connor is autistic, moderate to severe, but he's very high functioning.
Yeah.
He's very high functioning. So, and he's currently homeschooled because of issues that we'll get into later in the podcast. But, and Nick came into the situation. Connor was 5. He had just gone through his dad leaving and moving out of state and all that. No, he hadn't moved out of state yet. I'm sorry. You guys, timelines are going to be... I'm going to have to go through and try to remember timelines.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long... Yeah, I mean, me and Nick have almost been together for 9 years, so it's been a long time. But I believe when me and Nick first started seeing each other, his dad still lived in the same state we all lived in the same city. But he moved shortly after. So Nick basically was going through a lot with us. He went through a lot with us with Connor's dad, and that was awkward as hell. And then Connor trying to deal with all that. And it's been really crazy to see Connor as a kid go from how he used to be to now, that's been nuts.
It has, yeah.
But Nick came into the situation. I was a single mother with a 5-year-old at the time. Nick had never been around kids before at all. No experience whatsoever. I mean, other than like friends' kids.
Yeah.
But like to have to come in and be a parent to a child, you had never had that kind of experience.
No, definitely not. No.
And it was a lot of like learn as you go. I mean, he basically I wasn't leaving Connor alone with him right off the bat or anything like that.
Right.
But there was a certain level of like learn as you go type of thing. Like Nick would try to handle things, and then we'd have to be like, okay, like he's 5. Like I remember literally having conversations with Nick where I'm like, you're treating him like he's a little adult, and he's
Right.
5. You know what I mean?
There's been a couple situations where like one of his pet, like a hamster, would die, and I would tell him, everything dies eventually, and that's why you got to appreciate it while it's here, and you got to love it while it's here, because everything has its time, and then it's.
But you did not word it as eloquently as you're wording it right now.
Right. I've gotten
In
better.
hindsight,
I've gotten better with time.
Because at the time when the hamster died and he was inconsolably crying, you said, well, everything dies. Like that. You didn't like try to explain it. He was just kind of like very blunt. And it was and then it made Connor cry harder. And it was one of those situations.
And I felt bad because that was not my intention.
Where I'm like, okay, he's 5. So we got to try to rainbow bridge, like fluff this up a little bit. You know what I mean? He's in the hamster wheel in the sky, like, because he was 5. I mean, now he's 14. You probably say to him, yeah, well, this is just a circle of life, and he would understand it. But
yeah,
at that time, I remember being like, oh, God.
And it wasn't
malicious.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to make him cry. I was just. That's how I grew up. When I was a kid, I was told the truth in a stark way. Like I learned early on.
Yeah.
That about that, the nature. I mean, everybody learns at some point in time in different ways, but
you were kind of like force fed it though.
Yeah, I was in a lot of different times growing up. I was, and it's like, if you can face the truth, as tough as it is, if you can face it, then you can get stronger from it, type of thing. But I never meant to make him cry.
No.
And I got better. I adjusted, and sometimes you don't know what the best way is, and that you have to,
because you're not. I mean, you are a parent, but you're at that point in time, you weren't a parent.
Right.
You know what I mean? You didn't have a kid since he was like tiny baby, and you did. You know what I'm trying to say? So you had no. Like, there was no going through the pregnancy and going through, and having time to prepare. Like, there was none of that.
Right.
So it literally was like, learn it as you go. And even if you do have time to prepare, and even like, for instance, I had 5 years to prepare to be a parent, and I had all this time to prepare, and I had the whole pregnancy to prepare, but there's always something that you're like, I was not ready for this. Like having him when I was 29 weeks pregnant, having him early. I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared to have a C-section. I wasn't prepared to get a divorce when he's 5. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I was not prepared for any of that. So it was a situation where when you're coming in, we're all going through, like, I know how to keep him alive, feed him, make sure he's happy, try and get him through a school day. But trying to navigate a new relationship with a 5-year-old, trying to navigate co-parenting with Connor's dad, like trying to do all that was new for everybody.
Yeah, it was a learning experience for everybody. It still is. And I think there's some universal things that you should or shouldn't do. Like, everyone has different parenting styles and everything. And it's hard to explain exactly. Some people say there's alternate timelines that split off with different choices you make, and there's alternate universes. But when you make different parenting choices, it's not like you know how that's going to result when Connor is an adult. It's not like you have alternate timelines where you can say, okay, if you make this choice and this one, Connor's going to be like this. And then if you make this choice, and then Connor's going to be like that.
Right.
You can't see that much into the future and know that so you kind of have to keep trying to adjust as you go and try to make the best decisions that you can, because you don't know if I'm too soft and too gentle, is he going to be able to defend himself when he gets older? But if I'm too hard, is it going to be? It's a delicate balance between preparing your child for the world and protecting your child from the world, because sometimes you have conflicting things where you want to protect them, but at the same time, sometimes the best protection you can have is have them be prepared.
Right.
So it's kind of tough figuring that out, because each child is different, and you never. Sometimes there's things that take years to play out that you don't see at the time.
Right.
And so that's one of the tougher things.
And I think one of the hardest things with being a parent with him was the schooling stuff.
Yeah, that's really
that's been
as an autistic,
one of the most difficult. This kid has been to like 5 different schools, and I mean, we're talking in the first 3 years of going to school, in the same school district. You know what I mean? Like bounced around from this school to this school to this school. Okay, we're gonna try over here. Okay, well, let's try. And I mean, this is him being a special ed, and and nobody prepares you for all that. Nobody prepares you. Even if you know your kid is special ed, even if you assume, like we all do from being in school, that the teachers are prepared to handle, in special ed, a special ed child, a high-functioning autistic child. You think that they're prepared for that. Well, let me tell you something. A lot of them are not prepared. Or they just, and I'm not talking about all teachers. I'm talking about in our experience with the teachers that we have dealt with. We had one really great teacher in his pre-kindergarten class. She was amazing.
She was, yeah.
But that was the last amazing teacher he's had. I've had teachers tell me that he's the problem, which I don't doubt that there were probably situations where he was the problem. I've had teachers call me because he's in the fetal position under a table, hysterical, and they can't get him out, and you have to come get him, and he's ripping shit off the walls, and...
Yeah, I've seen where he's been under the table sometimes, and he's just had a meltdown. There was that one awful day, I think we did a vlog episode about, I don't know if it's still up or not, where he got the bump on his head.
Oh, he got, I don't even know how that happened, but... The thing is, he's gotten hurt at school where nobody can tell me what happened. I mean, severely hurt, had to go to the emergency room.
Yeah. That was really worried for him that day.
Yeah. And the thing is when you're worried, it's you're trying not to, at least me, because, at that point, I was trying not to panic. Because the thing is, usually I'm the one that gets more, like, aggressive about stuff. And it was so funny to me because you really notice things, like, when you're thinking back on it later. Nick was definitely the aggressor in that situation. Like, when you saw Connor, like, you were definitely more vocal about how you felt than I was.
Yeah, normally in high tense situations, I try my best to stay calm to where people think I actually am calm, but internally I'm not.
Right.
It's just,
You were not in that situation.
But in this situation, I was terrified for his safety with the way he looked and his appearance. So I said, oh my God, is he going to have brain damage?
Right.
I yelled it out.
In the office.
And normally, I'm very quiet, very reserved, soft-spoken. I don't, very calm, even in stressful situations most of the time. But in this situation, I loved and cared about him so much that I was so worried about him that I did something I wasn't normally do. And then for you did the opposite too, where normally you would be yelling... But you were so pissed off and so concerned. I was so
mad that I was so calm.
It's like the eye of the storm type of situation where it's calm, but there's danger. It's scary at the same time.
It just gets to be a point where you're so mad that you're like, I'm getting my point across. You know what I try to mean? Because there's times where you're like so upset and you're yelling and you're doing all this stuff and you're not getting your point across. You're just out. You know what I mean? You're just, I'm trying to look for a word and I can't.
Or it's just noise. And
it's just noise. You just gotta get it out. And it doesn't make sense. And nothing you say is making sense. And you're yelling and you're telling them, F this, F you, F. But in that moment, it was one of those things like internally, God, whatever you want to call it, that you're like, I need to be calm in this moment because I am getting my point across. Like, I am literally I will lose it. If I'm not calm, I'm going to go to jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there was one of two things that were going to happen. I was either going to be super calm, get him out of the situation, get him in the car, get him in the emergency room, or I was going to hurt that teacher. Those were the only two ways it was going to go, and I'm not going to jail over her.
Yeah. And it's,
you know, and that's the hard part about parenting too. Is the thing is I try to not lose it because my 5-year-old's there,
right.
and it's the same situation as people were talking about with that Disneyland,
TikTok,
the TikTok. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but the TikTok Disneyland arrest. That woman reacting like that is only going to traumatize her children further. And like, me and Nick saw this lady, her reaction to that. She goes, I don't care what the situation is. I'm walking calmly out of it with my children. And that's how I felt in that moment with Connor. I don't care what the situation is. I'm going to not panic him. I'm going to walk out of this situation calmly with my child. Because I'm not going to start yelling and screaming and traumatize him and get arrested. And now I can't help him because I'm in jail.
Right.
You know, so you just have to, it's part of parenting. It's just sometimes when they're in a panic, you have to remain calm so that they are not panicking too.
And sometimes that's the toughest thing is you have to rein it in and hold it and just stay calm. And
because I'm not good at that all the time.
Yeah, even though you're terrified or angry or whatever, you have strong emotions in that moment, you have to hold it in and act rationally and logically and try to put their needs above your own. And that's the other part of being a parent is when you're on your own, you put yourself or the people who are with you first, but then it's a whole other thing where the children come first. Then you get,
And you know, we've had multiple situations like that with him, with school. And usually when somebody's talking poorly about him, I can be pretty realistic about it. I can pretty much say, like, okay, well. But some of the things they say, like, I can say, like, okay, yeah, he probably did do that. But, like, what was I want to know what the situation is, though. That's the thing that was bothering me so much. Let me parent my kid, but let me know what the situation was.
Right.
Like, with the last school he was in junior high, it was like, he lasted, what was it, 2 weeks?
Yeah, and it seemed like a good school at first. We had such high hopes. We thought, okay, this is going to be where everything connects for him. And
they had computer lab. That was so cool. They were going to let him go in there. And then it was all of a sudden, I'm getting calls. I have to come get him. Him and this other kid are hitting each other. Now, this isn't a special ed class. Him and this other kid are hitting each other. So, and then they want me to start picking him up at noon. I have to go get him at noon. And this is not a school that's around the corner, okay? We live in a rural area. It's far.
It is, yeah.
So, you know, it was one of those things where it was like, you need to come get him. And I don't know what the right situation is in this. And I do default to my mom sometimes because, I mean, I'm 40, or I'm going to be 40. She's raised me, you know what I mean? So I do default to her where I'm like, what are we doing, you know? Because I need help making this decision. And, you know, the last time it was, you know, he's hitting so-and-so. And I remember I was sitting in that classroom and Connor was not with us. He was already at home. So I think I kept him home that day or something. I don't remember what the situation was. I didn't want him there, first of all. Because I don't think you should be talking poorly about a special ed kid in front of him.
Yeah.
But, she said, the teacher goes, well, he hit so-and-so because so-and-so hit him first. And I'm thinking, like,
that's
okay.
Self-defense in that case, yeah.
And then the principal goes, well, if he's touching any other student, I can have him arrested for assault. And that was and then we're sitting there like, okay. And we're like, wait, this whole thing. And what are we going to do? Let's get him sent home at noon, blah, 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 whatever. And I remember the minute we walked out of that school, my mom was like, yeah, he's getting homeschooled. We're not going to have our autists. Because here's the thing, you've seen it on the news. Those cops go in there to arrest those poor autistic kids because they hit a teacher or something. And they don't treat them like they're special needs children.
No.
They drop them to the ground and, you know what I mean? And I just couldn't see him getting arrested.
Yeah.
For hitting somebody because they hit him first.
Right.
Admittedly by the teacher.
And I've told him before, when can you hit someone? And I told him only in self-defense or in
Right.
defense of others who are in physical danger.
Right.
That's the only 2 times you can hit somebody.
And we're not telling him go out and start a fist fight either.
No.
Like, don't provoke somebody
Don't
to hit
provoke
you.
somebody.
But the thing is you have to be able to defend yourself. That's how we parent.
Yeah.
If somebody hits you, you hit them back. Period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have to defend yourself. You don't want to raise someone who's not going to defend themselves or other people who are in physical danger.
I don't know. This situation was so... And it's hard. When you've never gone through it before, it's hard to sit there and think, oh, well, if I was in that situation, I would do this or that.
Right.
Because you want to protect your kid, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't want you to be a jerk either.
Right.
And we've gone through situations with him like that, parenting him about stuff on the internet and stuff.
Yeah.
I caught him that one time doing stuff he wasn't supposed to do. He was bullying somebody. It wasn't like
Yeah.
he was being a cyber bully. So I really ripped into him about that one.
Yeah, because we don't want to, because his dad is really big.
Yeah.
He's most likely gonna be, he's 6 foot.
He's already taller than everybody in the house.
And so
At 14 years old, he's already almost 5'8". So, he's going to be a tall kid, too. And the thing is, you can't talk like that and not be able to back yourself up. Because
right.
even if you can back yourself up, you shouldn't be talking like that.
Right.
You need to be a good person.
You don't want anyone to be a bully, but if someone's gonna be that big and not know their own strength, you definitely want them to be able to maintain themselves and not bully anybody, you know?
Yeah, and we've talked about it, and he's not done it since. So
Yeah, he's.
But
One of the other parts too is preparing them for the world and even knowing what kind of world they're gonna grow up into. It's so uncertain right now because when we were growing up, people were told, "Oh, you're not gonna have a calculator with you everywhere."
now we do.
Now we have phones. And growing up, we had payphones and we had Blockbuster and all this stuff. And now we don't anymore. Now people are talking about ChatGPT and all these things. And are people going to have jobs anymore? And is AI going to take over all this stuff in the next 10, 20 years? Who knows what kind of world he's going to be in 10, 20 years from now?
The only thing I can see with him that's a positive thing is he's very into electronics, technology and stuff. Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
And his dad works in the technology field, so I think he'll be okay in that. And there's a lot more of like DoorDash and Uber Eats and Amazon Flex and Instacart and stuff like that and Spark or whatever. That, if he can be a good driver and get a license and everything, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that he's going to be okay. eBay, whatever, So I try not to worry about that as much as I do him being able to have social relationships.
Right. Trying to figure out differentiate between, okay, what is important for him to learn, what is critical and what's not. Does he need to know what the Magna Carta was? Probably not. But does he need to know
how to do laundry?
Yeah, probably, yes.
Probably, yeah.
Does he need to know how to cook his own food, do his own dishes, or load a dishwasher?
Right. At the very least, he knows how to feed himself. He can do it.
Right.
If me and Nick have worked really hard
to teach him, yeah.
To teach him, okay, if you want to... sure, it's a lot of microwave stuff, but a lot of people have to live off that kind of stuff. I see people in Walmart all the time. It's all they're buying.
Right.
As long as he can cook for himself, he gets meals that he eats, and he is, takes his vitamin or whatever. He's got a very restricted diet because he's autistic, and that's what he likes. That's the only things he likes. You grow up and you learn as a parent, you pick your battles. And that's not one I want to fight. You know what I mean? Where I'm going to make you eat broccoli. If you want to have pasta with pasta sauce that's got big chunks of tomato in it, fine. There's your vegetable. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you have to pick your battles, and that's another thing as a parent. Okay, I want to teach them this or that, or I want them to grow up this way, but what's the most important things for them to...
And that's something I really do have to, even today, hone into you as a step parent, of being like, okay, we are like me and mom will go on a girls trip or whatever, and you're really good about I'll stay with Connor, I'll take the day off work, I'll take care of all the animals, and you're great and you do a good job at it.
Yeah.
But we've had more than one time where I come home, you're like, oh, Connor was bad this week or whatever, and it's because you don't pick your battles. You decide that, okay, this is the hill I'm dying on this time.
Right.
You know, so I have had to, and it's not that I don't want him to do things. It's like when the cat's away, the mice will play type of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm not here to help mediate the situation.
Right.
So try to just get by.
Right. Because when it comes to teaching him things and, like, discipline, you're like a wizard with him. Like, I will tell him something like 5-10 times, and he just won't listen to me. He and I have a great relationship as far as the bond that he and I have.
Right. You're like one of his best friends, I feel.
Yeah, and he names his video game characters after me or makes them look like me and stuff, and I love him very much and he loves me. But when it comes to teaching him about life and trying to prepare him for life, he just doesn't listen to me.
I mean...
But he listens to you.
And I think part of the problem with that is there is a line when you're a step parent and the other parent, the ex-husband, or you know what I mean, his actual dad, his biological father, is very involved in his life still. There's a line there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's like you can try and teach him short of screaming in his face.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? Because there are times where I can do things that you can't do because I am his biological parent.
Right.
Like, I will yell at him. I will say, like, you'll say, oh, can you please, put the trash bag in the trash when you get a chance. And he'll just lay there and wait, and then I'll go and be like, get up and get the trash. And he does it the second I say it. And it's because he knows I'm not messing with him.
Right.
I am not going to mess with you. And it's not in a way of like, oh, you annoy me. Because we did have this problem before when we were doing vlogs or whatever. He would knock on the door and need something. And I'd be like, hold on, or 1 minute. And we would have comments of like, oh, she's constantly ignoring him or whatever. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just.
And when you have a family, things like that are going to happen. Where someone's going to come in and be like, hey, and then you have to pause or whatever and then come back, or if it's urgent. Right. And if it's not urgent, can you come back later in about 10 minutes or something?
Yeah, and it's not even that you're irritated with them or you don't want them around or anything. It's part of parenting. Like, I have things I want to do that do not involve him. He has things he does that do not involve me. You know what? I don't even know who he's playing with right now.
But he seems to be getting along with him really well.
He's getting along well. I've heard the person's voice on the thing. It's definitely you know what I mean? But the thing is that I feel like people don't understand. They see a snippet of something and they're like, oh, this is how she is with him all the time.
Right.
Never mind the fact that I have brought him to come get you from work and we sit in the car and we bullshit for like 15 minutes. I take him to the store and he gets whatever he wants, snacks or whatever. We spend a lot of time together. We do. Yeah. We play video games together, whatever. But, that's just part of parenting is just, you can't be with your kid 24/7. You got to try to make sure that they're going to be a normal. That's not what I meant to say. They're going to be a valued member of society when you're not with them.
Right. And I think that's one of the things as a parent too, is you have this image in your head of what you want your child to be when they get older, when they're an adult. And I think for me, I want him to be a fully functional adult where he can have his own job, pay his own bills, do laundry, basically all the essential stuff of being an adult. I don't have like super high demands of him to be like a lawyer or something crazy.
Right, or like a doctor or surgeon or something.
Or some crazy thing like that. I just want him to have a good life and be happy. That's what I want.
You want to not, you always worry about your kids, but you want to not have to worry about those parts of their life where you're like, something happens. Because Connor can stay with us as long as he wants. I've stayed with my mom,
Right.
He can stay with us as long as he wants. It's just you would like him to have the choice. If he didn't want to stay with us and he wanted to go out, get an apartment, and have his own place, that he could.
He could, yeah.
I want him to have every option in life that he wants to have.
Right. And there's also the uncertainty of life, too, where like we want him to be prepared. So if 30, 40 years down the line we're not here anymore,
Right.
and I hope we live well beyond that. But you just never know. Life is unpredictable. 30, 40 years from now, if we're not here, he'll be okay. I want him to know that he'll be okay on his own if he needed to be.
Right. The nice thing about Connor is I feel like he's always gonna have somebody around him. He's a nice kid. That's the thing.
He is, yeah.
He's a good person.
He is,
really
yeah.
is. And he's so nice. He was so sweet to people, and he's just so complimentary. The problem with him, though, is I feel like he would be very easily, and I think that part of it comes, so part of it's nurture and part of it's nature, right? And I think this part of it comes from maybe like more the nurture part of it is I feel like he could be very easily manipulated.
Right.
Because I feel like he wants people to be happy. And that's a lot of you, I feel like. You just want people to be happy. And you want to help. And you want to do all these things. And that's gotten you in trouble before.
It has, yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? I'm not trying to air out your dirty laundry, but it has gotten you in big trouble before.
And over time, I've learned boundaries and to be more assertive. And to say no. And actually be fine with saying no. And actually being relieved. I can say no now. Yeah. I can say no. Like, this is not the best example, but there was that one time that one lady was looking in that dumpster for something that was in there. And she was like, "Oh, I really want that thing." And I said, "Oh, that's too bad." Whereas the old me would have been like, "I'll climb in the dumpster for you to get it."
Yeah, no. And the thing is I feel like you learn that when, like, there was a situation, and I remember we were newly dating, and I'm definitely not somebody that's going to tell you what to do or how to spend your money or any of that. I'm still not that person. If you were to say, okay, I want to buy this for $500, if you have the money, go ahead. You know, I'm definitely that person where I'm just like, what? But we did have a situation where somebody was asking you for a large amount of money, and you did have it, but I remember I said, no. Yeah. You're not going to give them $700 or whatever the situation was.
Right, yeah.
Because first of all, this person doesn't talk to you unless they want something.
Right.
You know what you know the situation I'm talking about.
I know.
They don't talk to you unless they want something, and there is no reason you should be spending money on that. And I remember telling you that, and I told you, though, I believe I did say, it's your choice.
Right.
But just remember XYZ about this situation, and I would be the same way with him.
I think sometimes that is helpful if you're a people pleaser like me. Yeah. And it's have someone give you permission, like, this is okay. Like, this is okay to be assertive for yourself. You're not a bad person by doing this. And you're not a bad person by denying them this. This is okay.
Yeah.
It helps a lot to have a person.
Big proponent of that. Even in recent events with my friend who's a foster parent. I'm a big proponent with her too of like, and I was kind of comparing it to liking animals, which I was not comparing her child to an animal, but
that's the closest thing.
That was the closest thing that I could say. Hey, I love dogs. I love dogs. I love cats. I love, you know what I mean? I told her I love all kinds of animals. I go, but there has been situations where an animal, here's a perfect example. We had a cat that pushed Pete off the bed and he broke his leg. He hurt my dog, accident or not. The dog was hurt. It cost me over $1,000 to get Pete back to, where he wasn't limp. It was a whole thing. But anyway, I had to place the cat because there was a fear of him hurting the dog again, or something bad happening. The dog attacks him, whatever. It was a safety issue. So I had to, as much as I love the dog. Or I love the cat. I'm sorry. I had to place the cat. Yeah. And it was the same situation with her. She was in a situation where she had a situation with a child that she was watching, and it was hurting her child. Her child, that is her child that she has adopted. I said, this is not about whether or not you're a good foster parent. This is not about whether or not, just like me placing the cat had no bearing on whether or not I was a good parent. Or a dog-cat parent.
Yeah.
Owner. Not parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, this is the same situation. You need to put first the safety of, in our situation, the animal that was there longer. which was Pete. And in her situation, her child
Right.
is being hurt. You need to, and it doesn't make you a bad foster parent. It doesn't make you a bad mother. It doesn't make you any of these things.
Yeah, knowing what's bad and what's enough.
Setting a boundary and saying, this is my boundary. I've set a boundary with every animal we've brought into this house. With Nick, this is my boundary. My boundary with the dogs is if they are knowingly pooping on the bed, that's my boundary. And there's no medical reason for them to be doing it. That's the boundary.
Right.
That's my boundary. I've always said that. If the cat starts peeing on the bed and there's no medical reason, we'll go to the vet, whatever. That's my boundary. And I've told Nick this every time. I have a boundary as an animal owner.
Right. And I'm surprised every time because we'll do so many things. We'll make so many accommodations for an animal. And I just think, okay. And then eventually the moment happens where they cross that boundary, and then they get rehomed. And
for instance, we had a dog.
We put up with a lot of stuff before that happens.
We had a dog, and he was pooping on bed. So I said, okay, well, we'll put fucking the things we've did.
We did.
We'll put spike things down on the bed because here's the thing: I can't completely cover the bed, right?
Right.
We're going a little off the rails here. You guys will survive.
And they're plastic spikes.
But they were plastic. They weren't like metal ones that were going to puncture through his paws or anything like that. But they were plastic, and they made a crinkling noise to make him not get on the bed. I can't completely cover my bed. The poodle lives on the bed. That is his life, is this bed. He does not go to the bathroom on the bed. There's been a rare occasion where he doesn't finish, and he'll jump up on the bed. That's why we cover it. But he never does it on purpose, ever. He has never done it on purpose. So we have this dog. We put the things down on the bed. Because he would jump up on one side. I put him over there. Then he was jumping over him to get on the bed to poop. So then I got him a crate. And I would put him in the crate and then it was like I couldn't even go to the bathroom and come back. Like 10 seconds, he'd get on the bed and poop. So then we cover the bed with the waterproof thing, and we put the spikes on the bed. Okay. Then now he's pulling the spikes and the covers down to shit on my pillows. The dog had no medical problems. Nothing. Other than the fact that he wasn't neutered. That was the only thing. And there was a whole thing with that. But no issues. That was the breaking point. Yeah. When he started pulling down the blanket and shitting on the pillows, that was my breaking point.
There was nothing you could do at that point. We had done everything we could to prevent that from happening, and you can't live with that in life on a daily basis. It was just way too much, and we found a good home for him.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you are at a point where it's not, I hate to say like, when you're at a point where it's not fun. Here's the thing. I've been at points with Pete, who is my soul dog. That dog is everything to me.
Yeah, he is a really, really good dog.
I'm talking about you because you're wagging your tail.
I haven't seen a dog as good as him in years. Since I had my dogs when I was a kid.
And Pete's a really good dog. But there's been points with Pete where, you're not like, oh, he's the best thing ever. He's done stuff that pisses us off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll say, why did you do that? Or whatever. But I've never gotten to a point with him where I'm like, we're having more bad days of us saying, why do you do that? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Than good.
Than good, yeah.
And when it gets to the point where they're literally multiple times a day doing something where you have to strip the bed, wash the sheets every single day, you have to start reevaluating.
Right. Annie was doing it wasn't just us either. It was the other animals too. Like Pie.
Yeah,
like
Pie, that was a whole
thing with Pie where Pie
was miserable.
It was one of those things that once the dog was gone, everybody seemed happier. Like the cat was happier, Pete, especially Pie.
And the thing is you can find animals, and it's probably the same thing. I know, guys.
We're off the rails.
We're off the rails, but we're just going to keep going with it. You can find animals, and I say, okay, we're just going to have Pete and Pie, and that's going to be it, because I don't want. But you can find ones that do fit in.
Yeah.
Like Poe right now, perfect dog for us.
Yeah,
he's
he is.
Just active enough that him and Pie and Jack will play. Well, I'm not playing, but him and Jack can play, and they're not, and he knows when to stop, and he sleeps at night, and he doesn't get on the bed. He doesn't even try. Yeah. And he's like perfect.
He hasn't been able to get on the bed yet.
Yeah. He's like the perfect, and he fits in great. But the thing is not every animal fits in every home, and not every child, especially when you're a foster parent. When you're a parent, you're kind of stuck with the kid you have. I mean, there are options, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, and with foster parents, it's the same thing. And I mean, I've seen that through her, and I'm just trying to tell her, this does not make you a bad person. You literally brought this kid into your home with the best possible intentions. You know, you brought them into your home with the best possible intentions, and you are a good mother. And this just proves it.
Yeah.
You're putting your child's safety above looking like a good person. You know, she's a good mother and she's a good person. It's just this situation was, and that's just it with parenting. Sometimes you just get into a situation where you're just like, this is not good. Like with him in the schools and the bullying and, you know, circling back to that. We got into situations at, you know, like 4 different schools where I'm like, I'm panicking because I can't control what he does at school. And they're making me feel like, well, you're not disciplining him at home. You know why I'm not disciplining him at home? Because he's good for me at home. And I told Nick this multiple times. He goes, well, you can't just let him, you know, watch the TV or have the computer if he's not being good in school. And I agree with you. And there were times where I said, okay, no TV. But the thing is he's good for me at home. I never had him complain. He would pick up when I asked him to pick up. Even now, if I ask him to do something, he might complain. He's a teenager. I mean, let's be realistic.
That's the other part. Teenage years are tough.
Yeah.
But I wanted to let you finish your thought first.
But, you know, he's a teenager. Let's be realistic. But it's like, you know, I'll ask him to do something. He will do it. He might say some shit, but he'll do it. And he's never really disrespectful towards us. Where he'll be like, I don't want to effing do this. This is BS or anything like that. He's never like that. He might be like, I'm tired or, you know, my legs hurt. I have a headache or whatever.
As far as the teenage years go, when we're still early in, but
I was worse than he is.
It's been pretty tame so far.
I was a horrible teenager.
Like, teenage years are pretty much universally bad for most people. And the way that can happen can manifest itself in different ways depending on the person. But so far, in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't been that bad.
How long have we been going?
47
okay, we're
minutes.
good.
We still got plenty of time.
But yeah, because I don't know how you were as a teenager. You were more. I wanted friends when I was a teenager. I know you were not.
No.
He's very introverted. I was a little bit more of an extrovert as a teenager, but I feel like you can only put yourself out so many times and get rejected, and you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm good. But I had it tough from like the age of like, I'd say the minute I hit high school. I'd say like from 14 to probably until I was, oh my Lanta, let me think, 21, 22. I was a pain in the ass. And that, I mean, I know that sounds like a long time, but from the time I was 14 to the time I was probably 22, I don't know how many times I probably gave my parents a heart attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus, not only that, and I'm going to come clean with this, I do have a little bit, I've gotten a lot better with age, but I do have a little bit of an anger thing. Where I get angry and I'm just like, ah! I mean, I've gotten a lot better. The older I've gotten, I've chilled out a lot. But it peaked, I would say, between like 14 and, like I said, in my 20s probably.
So that's when your hormones are going like really.
And mine are screwed up to begin with, so.
On top of everything else.
But I mean, I've had, I distinctly remember having an awful teenage experience.
Yeah, it's a really tough time. The other part too, and I've told Connor this, I've had this talk with him a couple times, because when you're a kid, you're generally not aware of this, but the teenagers, when you're a kid, transitioning into becoming an adult from a teenager, when you're a kid, you're used to having all the stuff done for you. You're used to having things being easier. And it's a tough time to go from that to not everything is done for you anymore.
Right.
Things are darker and tougher. And you have to do things more on your own. And why do I have to do these things now? Because you, as a kid, you don't know what it's like to be an adult. But as an adult, you know what it's like to be a kid. And I remember when I was a teenager having to do all these incredibly, seemingly at the time, difficult stuff. And that's one of the other parts about being a teenager is going into adulthood and seeing all this darker stuff and responsibility. You finding out the world is more flawed than you thought it was going to be.
Right.
You thought you had all these optimistic views of things, and you realize things are not nearly as optimistic as you thought they were, and the world is a lot more messed up than you thought it was. And now you're going to have to do all the stuff that you thought you weren't going to have to do. Like, you have to have a job that you don't like, and all this stuff, or you have to learn
You have
these.
to find how to make money.
You have to learn these.
Essentially.
You have to learn these things that are basically meaningless and boring to you, and you have to do it whether you want to or not. You have to, and it's just tough when you're an adult. You can look back and be like, yeah, a lot of that was meaningless and boring, but some of it prepared you, and that's the tough part. Is you have to go through the trials. You have to go through the trials.
And the thing is, you say like, well, I don't. For instance, I don't have to make a doctor's appointment. Like, I don't have to call and make a doctor's appointment. I don't have to make an eye appointment. But the thing is, learning, if you don't make your doctor's appointment, if you don't make an eye appointment, if you don't do these things you're supposed to be doing, because I've gotten you about them.
Yeah.
That shit is going to creep up on you. There's going to be consequences for that.
Right.
Like, yeah, you might not. I mean, I am number one somebody who hates, if I have to do anything, the dog, or other than myself, I will call for myself if I absolutely have to. I will call and do my own. I do call and do my own doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
Because I'm an adult and I have to. But, like, if it's for the dog or the cat, or can you just call and ask how much something? I make Nick do it.
You're right.
I'll be like, these are the questions I want you to ask. Can you call and ask them for me? Because I hate doing it. But the thing is I make you do it with things that have no consequence if we don't do it.
Right.
And if it did, I would probably just do it eventually on my own.
I just do that to make it easier for you because there's things that I don't like doing that you do.
Right.
Or I'm not good at doing that you do. And that's part of being a partnership is that hopefully your flaws and your strengths line up pretty good and you can make up for each other.
Because that's the thing is there is a lot of things that I'm like, oh, you're going to help me do this? And I can tell he doesn't want to do it. I can tell. Case in point, the chef. I can tell you don't want to do it. Like, you would have done it, but it's like not high on your list of things that you wanted to do this weekend.
Right.
So, I was out there and I thought, well, while I'm out here, I might as well do it myself. And I did do it myself. And then I feel like because my love language is acts of service.
Right.
I feel like, okay, I showed him I loved him because I did this and now he doesn't have to do it.
And I really did appreciate that.
I know
you
did.
I still do. I thank you, Beba.
We moved a shed across the backyard. Me and my mom pushing it.
I was
inch by
impressed
inch.
because
he's like, wow, you really did move it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's heavy and big and awkward to move, and I would have had a tough time moving it.
It was not easy.
Yeah.
But there's things that you do that I don't want to do.
Right.
Like clean the toilets and...
Right. I think that's the other thing I've tried to teach Connor, and there's still more to do, is that things in life are just going to be difficult. Life is difficult, and it has a lot of negative aspects to it, but you get to choose the difficulty you have. Like you were talking about before, where if you don't do this, it's going to have...
consequence.
You get to choose your difficulty. If you don't brush your teeth, eventually your teeth start to decay, and then you have to go to the dentist, which is... With his sensory issues...
It'd be a night. I mean, I don't even want to go.
He doesn't like his nails.
I need to go, and I
hate going to the dentist. I had to be put under to have my wisdom teeth removed.
Oh, I remember.
And primarily for me, it's having my mouth open and tilted back. I feel like I'm drowning, and I can't breathe. That's my worst thing with the dentist.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, but that's my worst fear with the dentist.
Right.
But you get to choose what difficulty you have. Life is difficult, but there's no way around it, really. But you get to choose, okay, do I brush my teeth at 2 or 3 times a day and not have to go to the dentist that much? Or if I don't, then I have to.
Right.
Or you do the dishes, or your dishes pile up and all that.
We've all done stuff like that. Right now I got laundry in the closet that's been there since last week clean. Then now I'm like, now on Monday when we do laundry again, I'm gonna have like 4 bags to fold, and I'm gonna regret not doing that. That's the consequence of not doing it when I got home from my trip.
Right. And there's all these kinds of things we wish we didn't have to do that take up chunks of our lives that we'll never get back. And that's the part for me.
Is you try not to dwell on it though, because I dwell on it sometimes, and I'm like, it's like working. It's like when, like for instance, when I used to work at the job I had before I started doing eBay, I would literally sit at that job and think I would rather be doing literally anything than be here right now.
Right. And that's
I'm missing out on this and my dog, and I miss my dog, and I miss my cat, and you were home at the time, and I miss Nick, and this is more, you know what I mean? And you're sitting there, and I'm sure you do the same thing at your job. I almost said the name of.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do the same thing at your job.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I would rather be at home playing a video game, doing Stardew Valley, recording vlog, recording a podcast, or whatever.
Right. And the reality of it is at the moment that you have to make money, and you have to have a job to make money right now. Who knows, within Connor's lifetime there might be enough abundance where you don't, and enough technology and automation where everybody just has intrinsic value as human beings, and they don't have to prove their value through their labor, and you could just have either reduced hours, like a 4-day work week, or even a 3-day work week, or even less, and then you get more free time with your family and things that you love to do, and hobbies and things that really matter the most, rather than having to work just to survive and hopefully live a little bit.
Yeah.
But that at this moment in time, that is the reality. That's what you have to do.
To figure out how to make money.
Yeah, that's
whichever
just how
way
it is.
You have to do it.
And I try to think of it, I'm doing it before I was doing it for myself. But now there's that added component of I'm doing it for everybody here to try to make a better, and that's when you're a parent, you try to see it that way, because that's how it is actually. You're sacrificing for your child.
It's one of those
for the people that you love.
Or you're like, well, what if it, it is scary because you're relying on this job to pay you.
Yeah.
And tomorrow they could decide,
yep, no,
I'm not paying you anymore.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason,
there's layoffs due to automation. Goodbye.
Yeah, bye. We don't need you anymore. We're doing this or that or whatever. And the thing is and I'm really big on this, and I've told this to Nick before when he worries about stuff. It's like, we will find a way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I have to have a garage sale every day and sell everything in this house. We will find a way. And we're a team.
And that's very, very reassuring to have that family unit behind you. And because before, I would worry that I'm all I got. And if I fail, the whole thing crumbles underneath. And having someone have your back to reassure you and be like, okay, if through no fault of your own, say automation or whatever happens, you lose your job and you have to find another job, we'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll both look for jobs, and whoever gets home first, that's who's working, and the other one gets to stay home or whatever and do the eBay, because I got so much stuff. Somebody's gonna have to do the eBay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, whoever stays home can stay home and do the eBay, and the other one can just find a job, and whoever gets the job first, that's it. And I told you this multiple times. Do not worry about it. We got enough in this house that we will figure it out. We will always figure it out. And it's not that I'm optimistic, it's just I have faith in myself and this family that we're gonna figure it out.
Right. And I think of all the things that have happened in my life that I've gotten through, and both good and awful and terrible, and the whole range of it all.
Right.
I've gotten through it to
and
this
you're
point,
here.
and I'm here. And the same for you as well.
Yeah.
All the terrible, awful things you thought you weren't going to get through, all the moments where you thought, this is it, this is over, this is the end.
Yep.
And you're still here.
And the thing is you realize the older that you get, and you try to teach Connor the same thing, is that, guess what? Bad shit's gonna happen. At some point, because it's happened in my life and it's happened in yours, your dad's gonna die at some point.
Right.
My mom's gonna pass away at some point. This is the realisticness of this situation. His mom, Connor's mom's who's me, is gonna die at some point. You're gonna die at some point. We're all gonna die at some point. And the thing is we're gonna die, and you know what happens? The next day you have to get up and you have to continue to live. And it sucks. It sucked when my dad died and we had to get up and just keep going. I mean, it didn't suck as much because you and your dad were not close.
No.
But you know what I mean? Life still has to keep moving.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the world does not stop for you. The life does not stop for you. Regardless, good, bad, awful, earth-shattering stuff happens to you that you never thought would happen to you. Horrible, catastrophic things happen. The world keeps spinning. Life keeps going on. Everyone keeps going on.
And sometimes you'll feel angry about it.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And it's okay to feel that way. Yeah.
Because, me and Nick lived through, and the people are going to think we were so dumb, but the chicken thing.
Yeah.
And nothing pisses me off more than the fact that these people get to live their life like nothing happened.
Right.
When they literally, it's been 2 years and I still get misty-eyed about it.
Yeah.
We still get upset about it.
I've had nightmares over a length of time.
You said that in the last one, I think.
At least 3 of them I've had.
And the thing is, and people are going to be like, well, but these were our pets, and there's a whole, and you guys heard about this already in a different, I don't remember what podcast it was, but, that was really hard, and these people get to keep going on, like, who cares? And that's the hard thing is, and that was just chickens.
Yeah.
I can't imagine when something happens to my mom and everybody's just living their life. I can't imagine. I'm telling you, inconsolable.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do when that happens, and we're hoping it's going to be 20, 30. Yeah, we're hoping it's a long, long time off. And then, because I was telling her, we're going to be the adults.
We're
the top of the, as far as who you can go to you were talking about going to your mom for advice for things, and we're going to be it at that point in time.
Yeah, that's...
And I was telling her, it's like I was trying to tell Connor that death is inevitable, and you have to try to make the best of the time that you got now. Try to make sure the people that are there with you know that you love them and that they love you, hopefully, which they do. And that you just make the best of the time that you have.
And I think that part of it, too, that's scary about the whole thing is like... I think I'm scared of all of it because I don't want to live in a world without her. But it's like, we go everywhere together. Like, I cannot go to any of the stores here. They're going to be like, oh, where's your... You know what I mean? And I'm just like... And I know it's a horrible thing to think about, but it's like, you have to relive it every time.
And it's awful because it's not just the initial... It's all the remembrances, all the moments that you thought...
The little things where you're going to be in a Target and you're going to be like, I used to be here, and I don't know.
It's not like the person dies once. It's like the person dies 1,000 times.
Yeah.
1,000 little deaths here and there.
It's
moments.
Dark.
Yeah.
It got really dark.
Yeah.
Fast.
But
this is about parenting. Everybody dies.
But that's one of the many lessons in childhood and into adulthood, and that is another one of those things that I've talked about, the difficulty of going from being a child where everything is optimistic, well, not everything, but more things are rosy colored and optimistic and everything, and then you go to the stark differences between those two things.
And eventually the scary part is Connor's going to be the adult.
And he'll be the adulty adult one day.
And he'll be fine.
He'll be but hopefully all of those things are way, way, way in the future. And it's crazy. Like I said, just in our lifetime, all the technological advances that have happened, who knows in the next 30 years what life is going to be like. It could be good. It could be bad. It could be, post-apocalyptic. It could be very, I'm missing the word right now. Utopian. Thank you. It could be a mix of the two. Who knows? But that's just one of the tough things as being a parent is when you face mortality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at your kids and you're just like...
Because you remember when they were 5. I remember when Connor was 5,
Right.
and now he's twice his height. He's grown, not just in size. He's grown, but mentally he's grown. He can cook his own meals before, which he didn't used to be able to do.
Right.
And you see that continuity in time, and you're like, I don't feel like I've aged that much, but he has.
There's times where I'm like, I'm gonna be 40. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you look around and you're like, how did we get here? Like, I don't feel like I'm the adult in my head still.
I know I'm not the only person that thinks this way because I've seen it so often in TikTok, but it feels like going from 2020 to now has gone by so quick. Like, this is the fastest time has ever gone by for
I
me.
feel like we were just dealing with, you know what, the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like last year.
It doesn't feel that
It doesn't
long.
feel like it's been 4 years.
It doesn't. And that is scary. It's scary to me because I know the passage of time is inevitable. You can't stop it. Like, the world doesn't stop for you, type of thing. Like, but this is the fastest. Time can be weird that way, where the passage of time can seem slow at times and then really fast.
This is crazy.
And this is by far. I don't know if you felt this way
No,
or not.
yeah. Now that you just said it, I'm like, yeah, it's been not like 4 years.
It's been 4 years. 4
The
years.
thing is, sometimes I
here,
say, "Oh, we've been together 9 years," and I'm like, "Jeez,
9 years.
how did that happen?"
Some of the best years of my life.
I mean, they've been great, but it still
at the
feels
same
like
time,
it went like that.
Yeah. And sometimes it'll feel like it's gone by quick, and other times it feels like a lifetime ago.
I do kind of break my life up into before Nick and after Nick.
Yeah. It's a
Me
different
and my mom were
era.
talking
You
about
go
that
through
the other
different
day.
eras in life.
She's like, "When did this dog pass away? Was that before or after?" And honestly, there's dogs. I'm like, I don't know. That line is very, very blurred for me. I don't remember.
Yeah. It's tough going. The further back in time you go, the tougher it is to recall some things. Not everything, but
insignificant things. I feel like it's a little harder.
I go back and try to remember things back when I was playing the SNES when I was like 10 or 11, and I try to remember. There's some games that are so ingrained in my memory I can remember them, but other ones are kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
But one day, Connor's going to be our age. And we're going to be your mom's age one day.
It's going to be great because we're going to have our van. We're going to be traveling. It's going to be so fun.
That is going to be great. This is for another episode. For the next episode.
The next episode is going to be the bucket list.
This is a bit of a sneak peek, but I want to see a fall place one day with fall trees where they change colors, the red, the gold, and
and we can do that in the state. It's just I would love to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
There's so many places I want to see. I want to go to Minnesota. I want to do all this stuff, and I want to do it in a van. I think it would be fun.
It would be fun.
To, like, do it in a van, have internet, a hotspot, or whatever we need. At that point, I mean, I use my phone as a hotspot a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Just pre-do, like, 2 months of whatever you do on your Let's Play channel. Not to downplay it. I just don't know. I'm not involved in it.
I understand.
But, you know, and just go.
That would be really fun.
It would be fun.
When Connor's an adult, what would you like to see him have? Like, what would you like to see him as an adult?
I just want him to have good people around him. Have good people around him and be able to do something that he enjoys doing. And I know that that's not realistic in every situation, be able to do something you enjoy, but to at least not hate his job, completely hate it, and be like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know, with a lot of us, every job I've had has been a improvement upon the last job. The only time I can think of one that I went to that I was like, oh, this sucks, is when I went from working at, and I'm just going to say it because it's been years, when I went from working at Home Depot to working at a McDonald's. That was a downgrade. You know what I mean? There are jobs where it's like a step back and a step forward. You had a job that you didn't like, but you could say, but it was better than the one I have now. Right. You have one job, or at least two that I know of that you're like, I didn't like working there, but it's better than what I'm doing right now. Right. Which I appreciate what you're doing now, and it is one of the best jobs you've had as far as hours and consistency and a set schedule.
Right.
And being able to, and the work-life balance is pretty good.
Not having to work night shift was a big
Not having to work night shift, having a set schedule, being able to get the days off when you need them. You haven't been denied a day yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Those areas are
those
great.
areas are better, but it's just socially it's not as good, you know, but people don't leave you alone. But I would just like him to have a job that he doesn't like, that he doesn't mind going. I mean, we all mind going to work. You know what I'm trying to say? Just a job that can pay his bills, that he doesn't have to kill himself working at.
Right.
That's basically what I mean.
Yeah, where it doesn't have to be the thing he loves the most or has the most fun with, but it's tolerable for him, and he can have some fun with it, hopefully, and where it's not miserable for him.
Right.
And it's going to be crazy to find out, because like we said before, there were people who said, oh, you don't have a calculator all the time with you, or you don't have a spell checker, and you're going to have to memorize how to spell
cursive.
words.
We were just talking about
cursive. Analog clocks, I do not know how to do analogs. To this day, I struggle. But most clocks are digital.
I can do analog. I can write and read cursive.
Yeah.
I'm showing off now.
But there's so many things that were at one point in time considered critical and drilled in your head over and over and over. This is important.
I think the thing with you with analog clocks is you could do it if you tried. It's just going to take you longer. And you're one of those people where you're like, I can just look at my phone for this. You know what I mean? Like, why am I putting so much effort into it? You could do it if you needed to, but if you have an analog watch on and somebody goes, what time is it? You're going, 5, 10, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Whereas with my watch right now, it's digital. I can say, oh, it's 6:45.
Yeah, it's far superior. It's technology and more accurate and faster. I can't think of a... It's like those hand washing machines where you wash things by hand versus actually having a washing machine.
Right, like a dishwasher versus a washing by hand.
Yeah, and maybe over time we're talking about how we wish we had a dishwasher type of thing for clothes.
Right.
Where you would put clothes into a closet, the closet would lower with the clothes in it, would wash it, and then it would rise up, and then all your clothes would be
put away.
And I got that kind of from the movie The Fifth Element. There's a scene that's kind of similar to that, where the shower goes down and then it comes up type of thing.
Yeah. Well, now they have one where it's washer, and I'm going to go check for that.
We'll be right back, guys. So yeah, we had something that happened outside that we thought happened outside. It was a bumper, a loud noise.
It was a loud noise. Ended up it was Connor kneeing his door because he was stemming in his room. So we're gonna go ahead and end this episode here. But we hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in the next episode for the bucket list episode.
All the stuff we want to do in life, or a bunch of different stuff we want to do, all places we want to go, things we want to do, achievements hopefully we want to achieve.
What's wrong? Now the dog's trying to get on Nick's lap. Come here.
We need to go bowl. But thank you guys for sticking with us if you've been this far. And let us know down below in the comments but things that you had growing up as a child that were difficult, or things that as a parent that you've learned, certain techniques or certain struggles that you've had, anything that relates to this podcast that you want to leave below in the comments. And thank you everybody for watching.
I'll see you or listening. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.
Bye everybody.